everybody's doing good today. Hope finals are going well for you and hope you're doing well in these tough times. My name is Gavin Palazzo, and I am the presenter for Group 2. Along with me, I have Monica Alvarez, our group theorist, and Daniel Goddard, our group econometrician. And our paper is on social inequality and homelessness and some of the variables that we believe have an impact on the homeless population. So first off, I'm going to go over the variables that we use for our paper. First up, we have median rent. We believe that as median rent increases, we will also see an increase in the homeless population. Next up, we have median income. We believe we're going to see an inverse effect here with median income. As it increases, we should see a decrease in the homelessness rate. And last up, we have the poverty rate. Once again, we should see a positive relationship here. As the poverty rate increases, we should also see an increase in the homelessness rate. So homelessness is not a new issue. This is something that the world has been troubled with for centuries now. So to keep our paper a little more concise, we focus specifically on California. The biggest reason for this being that we have over 118,000 homeless individuals, which amounts for over 22% of the entire national population. Since this is such a major issue, we have seen millions spent on programs aimed at aiding the homeless. In 2018, San Francisco spent over $300 million on homeless prevention services, and they housed more than 26,000 homeless individuals. But this is still a growing issue, even with all the money spent on programs. Some of these programs, we have the CalWorks program, which provides money to struggling families to help pay for rent and bills. This wasn't a great policy when it first came out, and over the years it's gotten better. Next up, we have the Housing First program. This was introduced in California back in 2013, and it's seen more as a one-size-fits-all policy where homelessness is not a one type of issue. There are many different reasons and causes for it. So this is a debated policy. And lastly, in the past year with COVID-19, we've seen millions of Americans lose their jobs. And because of this, there's the fear that the homeless population is going to increase. But there have been some precautions taken to try and avoid this, such as Governor Gavin Newsom signing a bill to protect tenants from landlords so they cannot be evicted up until January 31st of next year, as long as they're paying 25% of their rent. So some of the past literature on this topic. First off, we have Cleveland. This paper looks at inequality tied to land ownership and the quality of land. So the wealthy are going to own a higher majority of land. They're going to own the nicer land, which is going to force everybody else, the lower to middle income families, into denser, less efficient portions of land. And this overpopulation, you're going to see a higher homeless population because of it. Some of the ways that Cleveland proposed to fix this are progressive tax rates and reducing land ownership. Next up, we have Early and Olson and Quigley. These two papers both focus on the effects that rent control have on homelessness. This is a very popular topic when discussing homelessness and the causes of homelessness. It's believed that rent control causes less favorable apartments. It's going to cause the supply to go down, which is going to ultimately provide less homes for those who need it. Their work, however, has shown that there was a minor increase due to rent control, and these effects are offset by programs aimed at aiding the homeless. Last up, we have Park and Quigley and Raphael. These two papers both look at the relationship between the housing market and homelessness. Park looks at low rent vacant rates and their relationship to homeless rates, and found a positive relationship. So as low rent vacant rates increased, you're also going to see an increase to the homelessness rates. And Quigley and Raphael also looked at this relationship, but theirs was on a much wider scale. They looked at all of Northern America, and from their brighter scale, they also found that weather is going to play a major role when it comes to the homeless population. and that warmer climates are going to have a higher homeless population because it's a little bit more favorable and survivable for those who are on the streets. So next up, we're going to go into the theory used in our paper. So we wanted to track the change in the rate of homelessness by focusing on three specific variables. As discussed earlier, we have the median household income, the median rent, and the poverty rate. So we have the theory of convergence for our median household income. This is also known as the catch-up effect. So incomes for poorer economies are going to grow at a faster rate than wealthier economies, and we have seen this in the U.S. So as a result, these economies are going to converge as time accelerates. This was true in America up to a point. So in 1970, we saw that the wealthier continued to grow at a more rapid rate than the lower income Americans. And we also saw tighter land controls in the 1960s, which caused land to become more expensive. And those with the money are able to take on those high housing costs versus those who have less wealth. So next up, we have America's homeless are also defined as victims of rent control. As discussed earlier, rent control was seen to be a minor increase, but there is still plenty of theory to back up the debate about the effects of rent control on homelessness. So when a rent control is imposed on a community, it has short-term benefits for the occupying tenants. They're going to pay a lower rent. But for those coming into these communities, it's going to be harder to find the apartments because you're going to have a smaller supply. Some of the long-term side effects, you're going to see a decrease in the supply, like I just said earlier. You're going to increase the rate of gentrification in some communities, which is going to increase the price for everything in that community. And you're going to have negative effects on the surrounding neighborhoods. So poverty is defined, someone who is living in poverty is defined as one who lacks a usual or socially acceptable amount of money or material possessions. There's many different ways that somebody can find themselves living in poverty, such as mental health, alcohol abuse, sexual abuse, drug addiction. Your past experiences are going to have effect on your future self. We have Karl Marx's conflict theory, which discusses the bourgeoisie versus the proletariat. The bourgeoisie are the wealthier, more educated group of people, while the proletariat are going to be your working class, your less educated. So those with a higher education and wealth, they're going to win because they work harder and they have the education to get them further in life. They're also going to be using the proletariat to continue to help themselves grow by utilizing the labor to maximize their own profits. So for the econometrics for our paper, the data on the homeless population was taken from the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness and the National Alliance to End Homelessness. And our data on median household income and median rent came from FRED and the California Department of Numbers. First off, we ran a Broch-Pagan test to test for heteroscedasticity. After that, we then took a log of our variables to account for that heteroscedasticity, and we ran a regression on our variables. So here we have the tables for our regression. The R-square of our regression was 0.667, which is significant because our independent variables that were included were responsible for 66.7% of the outcome in the dependent variable. However, log rent and log income were not found to be statistically significant. The only variable that was found to be significant was the poverty rate. However, the relationship that we found here went against our hypothesis. We found that a 1% increase in the poverty rate would create a 1.15 decrease in the homeless population, which kind of goes against what we see in society already. This kind of goes against popular belief as it stands. Despite the results for log rent and log income not being statistically significant given their p-values were 0.195 and zero point 0.6, the regression found two more results that contradicted what was hypothesized. According to the regression, if the median rent in California increased by 1%, the homeless population would decrease by 1.65%. We also saw that if the median income increases by 1%, the homeless population would increase by 0.44%. So some of the limitations of our paper, first off, our major one is our number of observations. We only had 15 total observations. The data that is kept on homelessness isn't very rich. Unfortunately, official data wasn't kept until 2015. So we were very limited with the number of observations we had. Second off, we have representation. So for our paper, we classified homelessness as sheltered and unsheltered, but we did not take into effect gender, age, sex, ethnicity. All of these can also play a major role on how these variables would affect them and homelessness. So final conclusions, we found that our hypotheses were false. The poverty rate had a negative relationship with the homeless population rather than a positive relationship. And we also saw that median rent and median income were also found to be statistically insignificant. That's it. Thank you guys. Hope you have a great day and good luck with the rest of the finals.